and what activities are under each one. Okay, let's have some hands up. If anyone can answer the questions for us. Robert, tell us types of control flow. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, Robert. Types of control flow that we have in UiPath.
Okay, we have decision-based. It is the decision based on the condition is met, the process will if not, then he executes the other parts. So under this
what are the activities we have under the decision-based
we have
control flow?
Hello, I said we have if activities.
If and I could not hear the second thing you said, Robert. Robert.
Yes.
I said if and what? Sorry.
Switch.
Okay, yes, if and switch. And what's the difference between if and switch? What's
so if the activity is two-way directional, it has a two-way condition. It's the other one.
which?
So and switch has an option for false answer. And it has other options or other parts if the specified condition is not met.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Robert. Then Esther, the second, what's it called? Type of control flow.
Good evening, Mr. Timay.
Good evening, Esther.
Good evening, everyone. The second type of condition, type of control flow is the iteration control flow or the loops.
Yes, loops.
Under that we have the while, the for each, and the do while.
For
each and the do while.
Did you say for? I don't think there's a for. There's
for
no
each.
for. Okay, yeah, for each. So
for each.
While, for each, and do while. Yes.
Do while.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, Esther. Yes.
I wanted to explain the three.
Okay.
I mean the two that we did on Friday.
I did two. Yes.
Yeah. So the while loop would actually check for condition first before executing on the workflow, while the do while will do the execution first and then check for
and then check the condition to see if it's true. So, and if it's true, it starts over again. It iterates. Yes, and if it's false, it breaks out of the loop. Okay, so those are the basic on control flow in the last class, and I hope we all practiced using these two things: the if else, the switch, the do while, and the while. Now Continuing from there, today's class, we'll be looking at for each. So if I may share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, most of us can see the screen. So we'll be proceeding. And if you can't see the screen, the PDF that is on the LMS, it's the PDF on the control flow. So you can look at that and be following if you can't see my screen. Now, talk about the dual, talk about while. So let's look at the for each loop. So the for each loop, it's more of a specialized loop that helps us work with collections. And collections are basically a groups of data of the same type. Okay, so like an array, for example. An array is a collection, and in UiPath we have other collections like uh, lists, we have dictionaries, we have, to an extent, data tables. Okay, so the for each activity, I use this for each. Okay, so the for each activity allows us to iterate through these collections. That is, it allows us to perform the same set of actions or set of activities on individual members of a collection. Take, for example, you want to process a list, an array of names, and you want to extract the extract the length of each name in the array. You would use a for each loop. I mean, we can use other loops for, you can use a while loop and a do while loop to do that. But then the for each loop is more specialized. That is, it's more suited and makes processing and code readability easier. So an example of using the for each loop, if we can see my screen, let's look at the activity that UiPath sets for us. So the activity is that we should use a for each loop to display the directory name of all files in a folder. Okay, so I hope you've all opened the UiPath, and you can be building on your end, while those who are not with their laptop can watch. I guess we can all watch, but then if you have your laptop, you can be building on your end. So we are demonstrating how to use a for each activity, and we want to read the name of all the files in a folder. So the first thing you have to do is insert a select folder activity in the designer panel. So let's open a new project or a new process. You can call it for each activity. And sample process or process to read folders from read file names from a folder. Windows, then it's great. Let's create this and see how it works. insert the select folder in the designer panel. Storing dependencies. So it's taking time. It's taking time. Okay, so while we wait, let's keep looking at PDF. So it says insert a select folder activity to designer panel. Define a variable folder name in the variables panel and assign it using the output property. Insert and assign activity below the select folder into the box.
Hello, sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
I can't find select folder from the activities bar. What I see is browse for folder. Are they the same thing?
Yes, are the same thing. Are the same thing.
All right, thank you.
Okay, because that is exactly what I did. I used the browse for folder. I think my own is running.
Okay, so some of us are already building. Let's just select folder. Okay, so has anyone finished? For those who
Yes.
have started. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
Judge, you are done.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
see how it works. Let's see how it works then, Judge.
Okay, I think you need to grant me access to
Yeah,
share
I'm
my
about
screen.
to do that. So Judge, now let's see. Try sharing your screen.
Sir, can I ask a question?
What's your question?
When you wanted to name that new blank process, you went to compatibility and you wanted to change. Is it to Windows or Windows like this?
Windows.
Windows. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so Judge, have you?
Please, I can't still share my screen. It's still showing only meeting organizer and presenter can share.
Okay, you're on two devices because I can see that
Yes.
there's one Judge already.
Yes, sir.
That can share.
Okay, I can share now.
Yep.
All right, this is my. So can you see the screen?
Yes, I can see the screen.
You need the control or?
No, so you can walk us through it then. So we have the select folder activity, or in this case, browse for folder.
Yeah. Then we'll pass the folder name.
Put a folder name, which is. And the next thing is what
yes.
now? Put an assign.
Assign activity.
And what is inside the assign activity?
Then we define a variable file list.
Of what type?
Okay. I think it is. Let me confirm it. I think the file list was an array.
Okay, true. So
Yeah.
array, because you
Yeah.
want to hold the select amount of.
Yeah. Then it was equal to directory.get file name. Then you pass the
Get
files
files.
under bracket.
Yeah. And put the folder name into the as a parameter into the get files
Yeah, that's
method.
the folder name
Then the next thing really was in the variables
for
panel.
each.
Okay, for each item.
Yeah, for each item, there is
Item
equal in the file list. So you pass the file list variable you declare.
So after that, the body is item to string.
Yeah,
Now
then you put a right
the to
right line
string
activity.
method, to string method converts an object to a string or to a string equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the name implies. So that is the end. So let's run your file and see what happens.
Okay. So it will direct me to browse browse a folder.
Yep.
I
So you
can
pick a
browse a
folder.
folder on my system. Then I can pick and say okay. Then to run. Then I can go to my output panel. Then to list the files in that folder.
So is everyone else getting the same thing now?
These are the
Yes.
files in the
Thank you.
folder.
Yes, we can see. Okay. Thank you for that demonstration, George.
Thank you, sir.
So did everyone else have the same thing? Was everyone else able
sir,
to?
please do it yourself.
We are still on it though.
They are still on it. Who are the people still on it? So thank you, George, again
Thank
for
you, sir.
that surge and
I can
anybody
stop
else.
sharing now.
Yeah, you can stop sharing now.
Okay.
Okay, so for those who haven't done it, let's go through the steps one by one. So the first step is to insert a select folder activity in designer panel. So for some people, it might not, or for most people actually, because if I'm not mistaken, this when you are using the latest version of UiPath, I think they changed some activity names. So you should use your browse for folder activity. And we all know how to get activities from the activities panel or from the designer panel. So the next step is to create a variable there. And the variable should be named folder name. Okay. And the next activity after that should be an assign activity. Am I correct, George?
Yes, sir.
Assign. And what are we assigning? We are assigning
The file name
a
now. The
variable,
file list. The file list,
assigning a
which is an array.
variable file list
It should be a type array.
of type array of T.
Array of strange.
So when they say array of T now, you change your T to string because we're going to be looking at names, not numbers or net other things. So when you click on array, it should give you a pop-up window where you can select the type of array you want. Then the next thing will be to assign that file list to the method directory dot get files.
Get file. Then the
And
file
then
name.
passing the folder name. Are you all following? Are we all doing this too? Is anyone stuck? Now the next thing will be
Sorry, sir. Sir, on the PDF, what page is that activity?
page 33. We have our for each item in file lists. So, right. So this is
Sir, I can't get it at page 33.
are you sure you are on the right PDF? Lesson 5, control flow.
It's actually on
Hello,
page
me.
32, sir.
32.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for depending on your font size,
Wow.
page 32 or 33.
Okay,
You should get it there.
okay, got it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so have you all been following, and can we still see my screen? So if you run this, you should get the same thing as what George got. Compiling activities.
Sir, please can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Chibuzo.
Yes, I think you're too fast. Because I didn't get what
Yes, sir.
you did.
Please go through it again so that we can follow.
Well, it's okay. It's in the PDF, but then I'll do that one more time for those who now see. So let me bring down the output panel again. Grab this. To hide. Grab this. Okay, so the first thing we asked to do is add a select folder activity, which for anyone that has updated their UiPath Studio to 2021 and above, should be a browse for folder activity. So in your activities panel, you can search for folder. Then you see it there. So you move that to your workflow. That'll be your first step. Then create a variable called folder name of type string. As you can see my variables panel, we have folder name and it's of type string, and make sure the sequence is for the whole, or make sure the scope rather is for the whole sequence. Then the next thing is an assign activity. So here we are assigning an array or a variable of type string, array of strings. So on that variable type, you click on array of T, and then you should get a table that tells you to select the type of array you want to create, and select string. And that give us an array of strings, and assign that array to this function, or to this code directory.getFiles, the get files folder name. Now what this does is it goes into the directory and gets everything, goes into the folder that we have selected in the previous activity, and assigns every file there into this array. Okay, then after that, we now use our for each loop to iterate through every activity, through every item in the array. Let's through every item in this collection array. Now for each, you see that it has two parts. It has the iterator and the iterable. So the iterator is what is the value of each item in the collection, while the iterable is the whole collection we are going over. So you put this item now can be anything, can be any variable, but then UiPath has conveniently named this item for us so we can, easily understand what is happening. And then we are going through our file list array. And then for every file in file list, we want to convert it to a string and print out the name in the output panel. Okay. So I'll run the code again one more time.
Sir, please, what do you mean by that item?
Now that item is just a variable. It's a variable that shows or that is used to hold every individual item in the collection while it's being processed. So remember, I said the for each loop allows us to perform the same set of actions on a collection of items. Now, when you are going through the collection now, when we are on the first item, that first item will be stored inside this place, to be stored inside this variable. Okay. And then to process the activities that would work on it. Once we are done with that loop, it goes again and assigns the second item in the collection to this same variable. Then does the process again, assigns the third one, does the same process. So this item is just a variable that is used to iterate through every member of the collection. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Sir, we put in a
to
body
do.
inside that for each. The body is talking about, is it for all the folder? Or I don't really get it.
So the body is just every activity you'll be performing for each item in the collection. So you can have multiple things there, but then for every item in the collection, you perform the set of code in the body on each one. So in this case, for every item in this collection, in this file list, we want to write out the name into our output panel. Follow me?
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir. So let's run this first and see it in action. Now let's select Academy. Select this folder and the code has run. If you check our output panel, you can see the name of every file in it. And if you want to confirm to see that you are printing out the right thing, let's locate the same folder. So the folder is on the desktop HighMark Academy. HighMark Academy, then HighMark images. So you can see we have 5 images here. And then the studio has printed out the 5 images: advanced analytics, data analytics, GD logo, healthcare, informatics, and solidity logo. So you can see that this for each activity is performing the set of things, performing this same action on everything, and the action here is to print out the file, the file name. Okay, so moving along, I hope everyone has done that. So moving along, now when we are working with iterables, it's or
Please,
when we're
Mr.
working
Timile.
with yes, Olamide.
Please, I have a question. Okay.
I want to say something. But directory get spies is giving me red. I don't know why. So
get files, did you put in the folder name?
variable type.
And did you put the folder name as the proper variable type?
Yes, folder name probably, yeah.
How about for the file list? Is it also an array of strings?
String.
Array of
Variable type.
strings for file list now. Remember, file list has to be an array of strings.
Yeah, I put string there.
Not string, array of strings. Remember, an array of
Okay.
T. Click on array of T, then string.
Okay. Okay. So I press OK, right?
Yes. So if anyone have tried to put your questions in the chat so we would not interrupt the class. Okay. So as I was saying that when we're working with loops or iteration based activities, there are some other features we would like to perform or would like to have when working with these iteration based activities, and they are the delay, break, assign. You've seen assign before, continue, and parallel. Now we're looking at these other activities in detail as we move forward in this class. Now let's look at the delay activity. Now this delay activity, as the name might imply, is used to pause our automation for an amount of time. That it's used to delay making a decision or performing an action, okay, at a point in time. Okay. So I think it takes in some inputs. Input is the time in milliseconds that is going to delay the process while running. Okay, so take, for example, you want to delay an activity by an amount of time before, or let's say, for example, we want to perform a process on an application, and then we know that our laptop or our computer might take some time while loading. So because we don't want our process with timeouts while waiting for our system to become responsive, we might need to add this delay activity into our project so that we can work without errors and work on code that would work regardless of whatever issues our laptops or computers may be having. I mean, the activity is also useful when we want to wait for something to be processed at first before using it in another activity. So let's look at that in action. Let's perform this same activity again, this same delay activity. Now, in our workflow, if I create a new sequence, I call it delay activity. Now, in this same workflow now, we want to create a workflow that tells a user to open a notepad and wait for 30 seconds for the user to open the notepad. And then it writes a text in the open notepad. Now, the first step in this one is to open the notepad on desktop. So that doesn't include UiPath Studio. So someone mutes themselves with an echo. Okay, so the first step says to open a notepad. And then in UiPath Studio, insert a message box activity in Designer panel. Now we want to put our message box. And then the message box, we say hi, open a new spot within 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds. Now, after this, you would then put our delay activity because we want our process to wait for the user to open the notepad. So we want to wait for 30 seconds. That is, we want to apply a delay of 30 seconds into the process before continuing the next activity. Now, the delay activity has some fields that are compulsory before it would work. And if you open a variables properties panel, sorry, we can see 3 properties. The display name, which is delay. This is just the name that appears here. If I display name, delay activity. Delay activity. This is just the name of the activity that is shown on the workflow or on the designer panel. Delay activity. Then our duration is how long we want to delay the following activity, and the input is in the format how HHMMSS, that is hour, minutes, and seconds. Okay, so we can see here in this format hour, minutes, and seconds. So if you want to enter 30 seconds, you have to enter 0000 then 30. So in the duration panel, put 00 colon 00 on 30. And then this private just tells us whether we want the activity to be that one matters. I think that matters when you're publishing the code to a library or orchestrator. You want the activity to be accessible by others, by other activities, or you want to just be accessible in this workflow. And now we are done with the delay activity. The next step will be to can someone be reading the steps to me so I won't have to be shuffling between Esther.
Sure, I can hear you.
Yeah, so can you be reading out the steps to me so I won't have to be shuffling between the Studio and the PDF? Do you have the PDF open on your laptop
Yes,
or
I do,
on
sir.
your phone? Okay, so after the delay activity, what do we do? Yes, thank you, Esther. So after the delay activity,
so you're supposed to use an attach window activity below the assign activity.
An attach window activity. Okay. Attach window. This attach window, I guess, is something new we have not come across before. And this allows us to work with other applications that are on the screen. Now, to attach a window or to attach an application that is open, you would do two things. First of all, indicate window on screen. You click on this link, and that will take us to our homepage, so we can select what what you want to work with. Okay. Now we are trying to work with our notepad, but as you can see, we are not on the notepad but on our browser. And if you can see this this little window on the corner here, says we can pause for 5 seconds.
So sorry, what I saw there is insert a type into after the delay now. Insert a type into.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I have too. A type into
A type into activity below the delay activity.
I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
About that.
Yes,
I
sir,
read
when
the
you
wrong.
carry us the-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay then. Okay, so
Right.
type into activity.
Below the delay activity.
So to type into activity also works in the same way as the attach window. We also have to indicate where we want to type into in this case.
I click the indicate on screen.
So you indicate on screen, and because we want to type into our notepad, once again, we would have to navigate and click on our notepad. If at the point of clicking that indicator on screen, you can't see your notepad, so the way to go about that would be to pause your configuration for 5 seconds. So you can see this little window here that says pause for 5 seconds, region selection mode, UI defaults, UI framework defaults. Click on pause and then go to our notepad before the 5 seconds elapse. Then we can now click on notepad. So has everyone, or did everyone get that? Or should I say it again? Should I come again? For those that
So I have an error screen on
Please come again.
Please, how did you go to your notepad? I want to understand.
okay, yes, let's look at it again. Now, after putting the type into activity, we click on indicator on screen, right? Everyone is clear with that. Indicator on screen. So let me do something. Let me drop this
So we
down.
have two type of type into. One is for CV and the other one is which one are we using?
CV. Did you say CV?
I'm having two type into. I'm having one that has a CV on it.
Okay.
And
so don't use CV. We're not working with computer vision yet. So for now, we will use the UI automation element keyboard type into.
okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir. Please, I have an error on the screen when I include the type into. It says the current activity must be added inside a. That's when I try to indicate target on screen. Once I click it, it brings a pop-up that says the current activity must be added inside a use application / browser activity.
Yeah, it's the same
Before
thing,
using
the
it,
same error I'm getting here.
please add a use application / browser activity and point it to the application you're automating.
Okay. So let's see. Hold on. This is you had an error. Okay. And did you select you selected the notepad correctly?
Smart.
Hello, Kieran.
Once you just type in,
Sorry, unmute yourself and talk. Kieran.
Sorry. Yes. Once I drag the type into activity into my my workspace,
okay.
then I try clicking on the indicate target on screen. That's the first thing you click before you can go over to your adding the notepad. It brings out a pop-up that says the current activity must be added inside the use application / browser activity. And then it says before using it, please add a use application / browser activity and point it to the application you are automating.
Okay, so for anyone with that issue, you would have to use an attach window activity for that. Okay, so the attach window also works in the same way. I'll type into, so let's attach window. If so, same thing now, you indicate on screen. Now let's look at how to navigate to our notepad for when it's not on the screen now. So I said we can all see this little window here in the corner of the screen that has some information in it. That tells us hover over the element you want to indicate and click to select it. Now, if you can't find what you want on your screen at that moment in time, you would need to pause the selection, then navigate to whatever you want to click on. In this case, is our notepad. So because our notepad is not on the screen now and we want to use it, you would need to pause. So you can either press this button here or on our keyboard, press F2. Okay, so once we do that, you have 5 seconds or whatever to look for whatever we need. And then when we click on that, we can then work with this. So now we can attach this window and then you can put your type into there. So Kieran and George or anyone else, did that work for you?
There is no attach window on my activities.
Okay.
So I was able to use the use application / browser activity, and there is no error again.
Okay, so use.
So I just added
the same thing.
after the delay, and then I added my type into inside the do box.
So use application.
Okay,
or
use
browser.
That one.
Yes. Okay. So I think the reason you might be having different things is what kind of, what's what they called it. They called it something about classic and modern activities. Yeah. What type of activities we have as our default. But then if you don't have a touch window, you can use your use browser or use application. As you can see, I don't have that one in mind. I don't have application in mind. So if you can't find a touch window in your workflow in your studio, use application or browser. Then use your type into. So I hope you can all navigate now. Navigate to the app we want to click on. Does anyone still have any issues with locating? Yes, good evening, Dami.
Yes, sir. So some activities are always in the classic mode. So they can, if people are not seeing it, then they can click on this filter, show classic. It will bring out those hidden activities, like the attached browser you're talking about and some other activities.
Yes, thank you for that, Dami. So yes, we have two types of or two sets of activities in UiPath: the classic activities and modern activities. So some of the things we might be looking for or we are looking for are in what's it called, classic, or it might be in modern. So as Dami said, everyone, yes. Dami, you were saying something.
Another solution to the error when people are trying to use their notepad is to make sure the notepad is like a new notepad, so that by the time they use that activity, what will be showing, the next tab they'll be seeing is the notepad. Then that will solve the problem of getting.
I mean, that you can do that, but then I mean, we will still need. Let's. It's good to cover our scenario. So let's say someone forgets to open their notepad. It's good to know how to navigate to that point, because you need that same process, I guess, when you're working with other things. Like in the case you're working on a web page and you want to scroll to something that's at the bottom, and then maybe you forget to scroll there. You want to be going back and forth just to do one activity. So it's easier to just navigate from there, pause the screen, open your notepad, and then select your notepad. I mean, I get that it's small. It's just one activity we are doing in this case, so it just shouldn't really matter. But imagine you're working with a large list, so you want to be selecting, or imagine you're working with a large number of applications, and you want to be selecting which one should be in front. It's more straightforward doing it that way. Okay, so continuing. So I hope we've all done our type into activity. And hello, sir. Yeah.
So my hand is up.
So have we typed? Okay, let's answer quick with me and Emmanuel.
Please, I searched for delay activity, but I haven't seen it. I've only seen delay.
Search for what?
Delay activity.
New activity. What did you just say?
I saw delay.
Delay.
But on
yes. No, I named it now. Remember, I said delay activity has some properties. The display name is to change the name that shows on the screen. So I changed mine to delay activity to show the effect of that property.
Okay, thank you.
So what you search for is delay, and then has a duration, that's the amount of time, and the privacy.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, sir.
Okay, sir. So okay, so all right. So this is quite out of context, but then I am actually very very curious, and so that I wouldn't forget, I'd like to know the difference between UiPath and Blue Prism. Sorry, because I said this out of context, and I shouldn't actually ask now. But then I'm really so curious because I met a friend and I got to told me about Blue Prism. I saw the interface and how it looks like. I'd like to know the difference. Please, have you heard of Blue Prism before?
Yes, I've heard of Blue Prism before.
Okay, please, can I know the difference and which is actually better?
Yes, the difference is down to obviously it is built by two different companies. Blue Prism and UiPath are two different companies. So at heart, they are both RPA, platforms. But then when it comes to listing down the differences between the two platforms, I can't really give you a comprehensive list of what is different, because I personally have not really explored Blue Prism. I've not looked into or gone into learning how to use Blue Prism. But then I would imagine that they'll have different set of activities and different set of tools, or their tools will be set up in different ways. Like we might not have some activity we have in UiPath in Blue Prism and vice versa. So they are both RPA tools at heart, but due to the fact that they have different makers, they would have different things, but they can both perform the same actions. I don't know if that makes sense to.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
Emmanuel.
Hello, sir. Please, I have a question.
So let's move on, class George. Is there an
Sir,
important question?
Is on what we are doing. One of the activities. I just want to explain the activity that type into, because like what I have here, I'm having the field done. I'm having empty field before typing, and then I'm having a click before typing. So I want to know, because I know it's not in your own. I want to know what we are supposed to select there.
So the
empty field before typing, and then in front we have
well,
click
we will get there. We will get there. Remember, we just opened. I'll talk about the properties of the typing to activity. So
okay, I think I was not seeing it in your own. All right.
Yeah. So once we've all put our typing to activity, likewise as delay activity has some properties. So also has some properties like continue on error. Now the continue on error tells us that if there's an error with working in the field we are typing into, we can check it. So we can check it to either true or false. Now, if it's true, that means whenever there's an error, our process would not stop working. Our process would just read the error, then skip it. It will not impact the flow of our work of our project. Then there's the delay and the delay after and the delay before property. This one just tells us how much time we want to wait before or after executing the activity. That is before or after typing into our field. Then our display name is just the name of the type into activity we want to see. And then it has the input set of activity or properties. Now this targets tells us what we are. Let's say what we are typing into. Okay. Now when it's on targets, we are the ones that set up the target application in this case, which is our notepad. And then the text, if you want to enter text or if you want to put in a variable, this is where we put the variable. Then private, I think I said private before. Private is all about accessibility. Then we have some other options. The activates. Like this activate just tells us whether we want to bring the field to the front of our screen. So we can either want to work in the background, or we can decide to bring the field to the front of or to the foreground before typing into. So this activate tells us if we want to do that or not do that. Then auto if disabled is used to check if the element is disabled or if we cannot type into it. So if we can't type into it, then it should not if it will not throw an error to alter the activity for that case. Then delay between keys is the time in between different keystrokes. The select at end tells us what to do after typing the whole thing. If you want to select or move a selection for me, this empty field wants us to or allows us to clear out any data in the field. So if I put this on true, let's say for example I type some things here. When this is true now, before typing into, our UiPath Studio will clear out everything in the data input field. And if it's on false, it would not make any change and just add to the things that are there already. Then for this send window message and simulate type, we'll get to that point later on in the course, but then they are what we call input methods. That is how the computer interacts with the UI elements on our computer. So George was saying, in this case, you can click on empty field and you can put down true. Now, continue with let's do this quickly. What are you typing into? typing automation is future. So automation.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Then is future, and then close this. Yeah, closing this. Okay, so now let's see how the delay activity works. Delay. Okay. So once we see this open new notepad, and now we have 30 seconds to look for a notepad application and open it. After we click the OK button, if we don't do that after 30 seconds, you will see that you will get we would get an error. So as you can see, let's open our notepad here. Okay. Now 30 seconds should have passed by now. So as you can see, it waited for 30 seconds before typing out this whole automation is future line that we input. So I guess we can imagine other uses for this delay activity when we want to wait for our robots while some other information or some other applications are being opened or are being loaded into the foreground of our computer. And the next control flow activity we have is the break. And this break simply allows us to exit a loop before a condition has been met or not met, as the case may be. So take, for example, we have for a while loop that we want to break after the first. We want to break while the condition is still true. I want to exit rather while it's still true. You would have to put a break activity into the while loop. I mean, after a certain condition. Hello? Hello?
No, sir. You skipped on some parts.
Oh, okay. So I said the next activity under control flow is the break activity. Now, this break activity allows us to exit a loop at a given point instead of waiting for the condition to become false. So take, for example, we want to exit a while loop, even though we still have a true condition. We would need to insert a break activity into the while loop at some point, and then that would allow us to leave the loop and continue with the next activity. Now, I would not be running this practice or this in exercise. You guys should do that in your spare time. And then now there's the assign activity. I think we've all seen the assign activity is used to allocate a value to a variable. So where we looked at something that said assign something to a file list. Basically, what is happening is that we are storing this value or whatever is on this part on the right hand side into the variable on the left hand side. Then the next activity is the continue activity. Now this continue activity works similar to a break activity, but when we use a break activity, we exit the loop. The continue just allows us to skip one iteration. So let's say in our process, we get to a point where we don't want to work on this version of a loop. So because it might be in a for each loop or while loop or do while loop. if you want to skip over an iteration and continue with the loop, we use our continuing activity. So it says it enables you to skip the many parts, the many steps in the current iteration inside loop activity. And if you can see my screen, the last iteration or the last control flow activity we're looking at now is the parallel activity. Now, as the name implies, the parallel activity allows us to run multiple activities side by side at the same time. And it is useful when we want to do multiple things at the same time. It allows the user to schedule 2 or more child activities in branches and processes them simultaneously. But then you have to note that this parallel activity now cannot work in the foreground. You can't run parallel activities in the foreground. That all activities you have to do there are background activities. Or we can select one activity to be in the foreground while the remaining are in background. But then the baseline is that we cannot have more than one activity running in the foreground at the same time. Now, the parallel activity also has some other things that I should take into account, like the send window messages and the simulate type messages. This is because of the way we have to select send windows type, send window messages and simulate type. Is this? We have to select send window messages and simulate type because these two methods allow for background processing. It allows for activities to work in the background. In UiPath, I think there are three input methods. I think we talked about input methods. There is hardware, there is the send window message, and then simulate type. So while the hardware can only work in foreground, I remember I said that this parallel activity can only allows us to work with one foreground activity and other ones in the background. You have to select the simulate type of send window messages property to make sure this doesn't run into any error. Okay, now we'll be looking at some, so let's look at some practice. Let's look at this practice exercise, working with the parallel activity, before we go into another type of control flow. Okay, so that'll be after our break. Sorry, it's 8:46. I took a minute of our break time, but so let's all go on our break and come back by 9 o'clock. So we'll continue with control flow and do this exercise. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay then. So, and for those who are still having issues, I think I told someone to talk to me during the break about something. So you can all raise your hands up and I'll try to answer them as much as I can until the break is over. Chizu. Dami.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Though I was supposed to drop the hand, but I just wanted to comment mine to say that I've tried as much as possible to resist the urge not to interrupt the class so that I could also make comment. My hand has been up since the beginning of this class. But meanwhile, that being said, I have resolved all I needed to ask questions on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All right then. Then I guess Dami's hand is up. Dami, Luke, George, are any of you here? Okay, Dami.
So which one I wanted?
Hello?
Let me do on my hand.
Okay then. Look.
Sir.
Yep.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Sir, please, I want to ask, can you go over the delay activity again, because I didn't really get it very well.
Okay, so delay activity allows us to wait for a certain period of time. Wait for a certain period of time before performing the rest of our activities. Guys, delay. So actually, let me just show you. Now, in this case, we wanted to wait for 30 seconds before running our workflow. So we had to put a delay activity, and then we set our time to 30 seconds. So to recap, as I said, delay activity allows us to pause our execution of our process for a predefined amount of time. That makes sense, Luke.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, please.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Sir, please, can you explain how you did that aspect from the attached window notepad area?
The attach window. So we don't need attach windows just to show a point to other people who were having issues. But once you add this now, you should see something that says indicate on screen. So you just click that and then click your application, which is Notepad in this case. So if you can't, by chance, you can't access your Notepad on the home screen, that is on the screen that it leads you to, you should pause your automation or pause your selection by pressing F2 on your keyboard, and then navigate to your home, to your Notepad, then click on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
So, yeah, okay. Okay, the next person is George.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Timile, thank you, sir. If you don't have this attached, type it to indicate is any alternative, because I didn't find that on my machine.
You did not find the
indicate to, yes, that one, attach window. That one is not my action. I can't find it.
Yeah, the indicate should be there, because that is the only way to attach the window. You need to click on what you're attaching. But if you can't see it there, do you see these three bars, this menu? You click on that and then you can also see indicate on screen there. But I think ideally it should be the first thing you actually see.
Okay.
So have you seen it now?
I'm still checking it.
Next, so that's why we wait for him. George Ojegbe. Okay. Honesty Alabi. Okay. Emmanuel Fadei.
No, sir.
Okay. Hello, Honesty.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm still having issue with the type into. Like the same
So
issue I'm having.
what's happening in the type into?
After adding the type into activity, then I'm seeing the delay on screen, but it's giving me an error message. Then I click on it.
Said you are seeing delay on screen.
Yeah, it's saying the current activity must be added inside the use application browser.
Okay, so you would have to put a use application activity.
How do I do that?
It should be in your activities panel. So just search for it and put it there. And put it in your workflow. Your designer panel.
Okay.
You get that? Yeah, search
Inside,
for it in your activities
instead
panel.
of
Then
type
put it.
into, I should use.
Yes.
I should use use application.
Use application. Then put your type into.
Okay. Let me try that.
Emmanuel. Good
evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, well, I don't know about others, but today's lessons were kind of too fast for me to grasp. So, but I have a question based on the last part when you were explaining parallel. You were talking about maybe foreground or background or something. So I want a better explanation on that.
So the parallel activity allows us to run multiple activities at the same, or not at the same time, multiple child activities at the same time. So to enable that to work now, we can only run one activity in the in the foreground and run the others in background. Or you can run all in background, but then you cannot run more than one activity in the foreground. That is the caveat with the parallel activity. And also to enable that, you would have to select in this case, select your option. As you can see on my screen option, there is send windows or simulate type. You would have to select one of them to true, because it's only these two options, let's call them options for now, that would allow you to work with multiple background activities at the same time. I don't know if that is making sense to you, Emmanuel.
Kind of. You said the foreground. Is it a part of the parallel that is the foreground and the background?
So the parallel, or it's not part of the parallel activity. It's a part of your computer rather. So like foreground now means running things that you can see in front of you, while background means running things that you can't see, or that are just running behind the scenes. Let's say behind the scenes, that's when you're working underground. So you can only put one activity on the screen at a time.
Okay.
Then why they many have to be working in the background, or as I said, working behind the scenes.
Like being minimized.
Yes, minimized. Okay, so the next, all right. So I guess is that fine with you, man?
All right. So, sir. So are you there?
Yes.
What's the difference between this simulate whatever and send windows stuff?
We're not doing that now. When you get to that, it's a topic further on in this training. So when we get there, we'll talk about that. But then they are both input methods.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And then is George ready? George ready for us yet? George, Honesty, Daniel, any of you, are you ready to?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I was one you said I should let you know during the break about
Yeah, about
my
the one
yes,
running
sir.
in the background. Yeah.
So I'm trying to open one of the ones I did yesterday into today and it runs in the background. So I don't know. Can I share my screen?
Okay. Let's see what you have.
Okay, sir.
While we wait, Olamide, George, have you now fixed your?
Yes, Mr. Timler, I can find it, but yeah, I can find it.
Okay then.
I still have another question on the previous one. The one that is item file list. So that one is still giving me directory get files. It's still giving me red. I don't know why. So, and is it a variable type? I should change it to array. Yes, sir.
So take a picture of your error and put it in the chat. So I'll look at it and try to answer. Chizu.
Oh, so
I said take a picture of the red flag, the flag that is coming up. Put in the chat.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chizu.
All right. Yes, sir. After I ran the automation for these delay activity that we just did, the notepad came on only when it was open. But when I closed the notepad and tried running the automation after I saved it though, it didn't display. It just came up once and it disappeared. I don't know why that's so.
Sorry, can you say that again? You said
Okay. In
go
this
on.
delay activity just finished, I have done the processes, everything is correctly done, and I set my timing to 5 seconds. That is, the notepad will open within 5 seconds. But when I ran the automation, it came on because the notepad came up because it was open already on my system. But when I closed the notepad and tried running the automation again, the notepad just came up like a flash and disappeared. I don't know why that's so.
Okay. It opened. Okay. So I think that is because of you use the attach window, right? Or use application. Choose. Choose you answer.
Sorry, sir, I was muted. I
So
used
you
the use
used
application.
okay application and then it just closed. It just closed by itself. Opened and closed.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Did you check if it was open in the background? Because I feel like it might have just minimized the notepad.
Yes, I've checked the background. It's not there.
It closed and it did not close the activity or close the application.
No, I didn't close it.
Okay.
Can you see my screen, sir?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
The program is running, but it's not bringing up any pop-up.
So run it again. Let's see. It's running. It's running. Can I see
Yes.
your task bar?
Okay. Then. Okay. Just a minute. I'm trying to see if I can share the whole of my screen.
I should see something like share. It's
Like
share
desktop.
screen. There is share screen and share. Okay, yes.
I
So run it
see the whole
now.
of my screen.
Click on that green thing beside the S. Did you click
It's
on
not
it?
coming up. It's not coming up, sir.
Hmm.
But right.
Okay. So there's an error. Let's see. Message is not valid value. So there's an error in your code. That is why it's not be running. How do you create this auto hide? See there are errors in your code. Look at this. This is not what we did in the last class. The errors everywhere. So I think that is why it's not working. Remove the quotes from everything here. Remove the quotes from 60, remove the quotes from int max, remove the quotes from so try anything that's a variable, don't put quotes on your variables. So try doing all those, then check if it will run again, because that is probably one of the errors in the code. And so you can scroll up to the input dialog box first. What's this box? Name string sequence. Yes, so try removing those quotes and let's see what happens from there. Okay.
Just
All right. Then Chizu, you were saying that what's it called? Your this part was opening and closing
Yes,
quickly.
sir. Yes.
So take a screenshot of your what's it called? Of your code and put in the chat. Look at it as so Esther and Zainab will be the last two people I'll be calling. Esther.
Okay, so
Yes.
I had network issue and I was locked out. I just joined in. But for the first program we ran, I think I have some errors. It runs, but then it's saying that maybe I added some code somewhere I'm not supposed to. I don't understand. So I don't know if
Okay.
you
Just take a screenshot and put it in the chat, Esther.
okay.
And
Okay.
then Zainab.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Zainab.
Today's class is kind of complex. Like at first, when we're doing Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. You said it's complex.
Okay. Yes, in the process, I don't know, maybe my network. I was out of the class. So me coming back, I noticed you guys are treating an exercise for ever since then. I didn't even get it. I didn't even know how to get myself to how to go about it.
Okay.
So I was just seeing the
So
whole thing on the screen and I was like, what's going on?
okay, so what I think you can do now, you can check the PDF, look at it. The PDF should have all the steps you would need to, follow or catch up to the
For the
class.
boot exercise.
What the two exercises. So as I said, the PDF has the steps there, so you should be able to look at it and try to grasp something. Then maybe later on in your free time, you can watch the video again. And so Zainab, just try to follow this from now. So to the best of your ability, you can.
Okay, so
Yeah, okay then.
So
thank
please,
you,
how do
sir.
I share?
This
How
person,
do
who is
I
this
share?
person? This person, look,
How do I share?
for look, you are putting quotes around file list. There's no quote around file list.
Sorry, sir, it's not responding without the
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's continue. Daniel, were you able to? Did you run?
No. Right, trying.
Hello?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Trying to inputting the variable without the colon is bringing out error itself. Just using the control K and inputting the int max greater than or
So Daniel,
equals to.
I think you are still making some mistakes in this.
Even for the ones that I didn't make mistakes, but like for the one that I did earlier than now,
Okay.
it's still doing the same.
The same error.
Like it's still not popping up.
What's popping up? What do you mean popping up?
When I run the file, like every other
So you
person
mean
gets to see.
previous
Yes,
automation?
yes. Or should I do a simple hello world and let you see?
Automations. I don't think we would have time for that. So Daniel, I think what you can do is wait after the class. So because I don't think this should not be. This should not something that should happen. You shouldn't be able to see the what's it called, the message boxes and other UI elements. So there might probably be some little things you have to correct. So we'll look at that together after the class. So you would not slow the class down. So continuing, yeah, you're welcome. So if anyone that still has questions, you can put your issues in the chat and someone will answer along the line. And likewise, anyone, if you see issues in the chat that you can answer, lend the hand to your classmates and help them in solutions. Okay, so before we left for the break, I said we were going to run this parallel activity exercise. Okay. So now let's quickly do this. Let's do. So it says create two activities. This is create two activities. Create two notepads with names foreground and background. What are we looking at? Okay, that's not what we're looking at. Let's do this. Create, build a workflow to that'll be your assignment. So let's all move to slide 41 now and do the the class exercise. Then you would all use slide 42 as your assignment. Now, 41 says create two notepads with names foreground and background.txt. So can create this one with the name background, then a new one, the name foreground. In UiPath Studio, insert a parallel activity into designer panel and insert two sequence activities in it. Now in UiPath Studio, sequence active, and insert a parallel. And in the parallel, it says insert two sequences in it. So insert one sequence and another sequence. So we have two sequences in it. Are you all following?
Yes, sir.
Bit lost.
Yes. Who said they're a bit lost? And please don't drag us back. Are you lost on this activity or a previous activity?
This very activity, I got lost in the process where you are trying to create the parallel activity.
Start again. We have our new workflow. And the first thing we want to do now is add the parallel activity. And we have parallel under our workflow control. So we just drop our parallel here. Then the next step in the PDF is to add two sequences. So now you can get our sequence from here also, sequence. And then because we're using two, we will do that twice. So one here and then another here. So now we have two sequences. The next step is to put type into activities in both sequence activities. So we're using type into now. One type into and the other type into. Okay, so for the first type into, we want to use our foreground.txt file. So navigate to foreground.txt and use that. And you want to type 5 sentences into the box with that activity. Okay. And then for notepad. Going to need our second notepad. And then for the second typing tool, to indicate second one. And then we can put some text in our quotes. And say this is a background process. Background process. The next step in the activity is to run the process. Now let's run on file. See what happens. Okay, so we can see that okay, what happened there? All right, there we go. Let's do this again. Clear this. Let's run that again. Let's studio. Run file. So you can see we did both activities. We did the background process and then the foreground process. That they did not run, at the same instance, but then it was close enough to be considered simultaneous. Let's be considered simultaneous, and I think we can imagine what will happen now if we would want to use it to, automate more tasks or more things in more things in parallel. Is that clear to everyone? Does everyone understand what has happened now? Does everyone understand how the parallel activity worked? Or is anyone still stuck? Okay, thank you.
Sir, I have a
I
question.
finished it again because
Yes.
it's hanging on my end, so I didn't get the process.
The process.
Sir, please, like, can you do it again?
It was hanging, yes, so I didn't get the steps.
You would need to look at the PDF. I said if you missed anything in class or during this, look at the PDF and follow the steps there. So what I did create a new sequence, then create a parallel activity. We have our parallel activity here in our activities panel. Add that to our project, and then we add two sequences as the PDF says. One for
can you
each.
share your screen?
I'm sharing my screen. Is there anyone not seeing my screen? Is there anyone else not seeing my screen rather?
Yes.
I'm sharing my screen, so I think you would need to let me do something. Connect. And we all see my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
I can't see it. Maybe it's my connection. I'm not seeing. I'm seeing a blank screen.
Probably a connection. Can you try leaving and try changing your network? If that doesn't work, then try leaving and joining again. Now for this sequence, we saw that when we ran the two files, they did not run exactly at the same time, but then one ran before the other. So I think that's because, remember I said before, we cannot have two activities running in the foreground at the same time. You can only have one foreground and multiple background at the same time. Now, if you want to make sure that the two of them get run at the same time, you will need to change the property of one of them to send window or simulate type. So let's use send window and click it on, make it true. Let's run the file again. Let's run the process again. We run this now. You would see that okay, only one is running. That's an error. Selector not found. Okay, so that's probably because there is an issue with the name. If we run this file now, should not get the errors since because there was some text in the so as you can see. Okay, did you all see that? Did you all see what just happened now?
Sorry to interrupt you. The send Windows message is not visible on my properties panel.
Who is that? Sorry.
It is I, Kieran.
Even me, I don't have parallel activity.
You don't
Start
have parallel
Milan?
activity.
Yes. I don't know what.
I'm not talking about that. I mean on they say you should get the set Windows activity
Yeah,
and
send
turn it to
Windows
true.
activity. Send.
Yes, I can't see it on
Send
my
Windows
properties panel.
property of the sequence or type into rather. So what do you see there? Do you see all these other things there? Like
Yes.
the activate
And in the options,
type.
the only thing on my options is just input mode.
Input mode. So check input mode.
No, nothing else.
Nothing, as in click on
It
input
doesn't have
mode and
no, it doesn't have those kind of options on your screen, sir. I don't know if I'm the only one having it.
In the input mode, it has same as
yes.
app/browser.
Sorry?
Hardware events, simulate Chromium API, then window messages.
So
no,
click
I
on
think
window
you are on
messages.
the use applications tab.
On the in your input mode, click on the input mode and you should see send. So you should see window messages there. I think that was,
Yes, I've seen
someone
it.
else was saying. Okay, so
I've seen it. Thank you.
I think you're using the 2022 version of UiPath, if I'm not mistaken.
21.
I think 21. Okay, then yes. Probably the type of activities. You're probably using modern activities then. So you would need to, I think you need to set that to classic later on. And then for now, just work with what you have. Click on your input mode. For anyone who has that same issue, click on your input mode and click on window message. You see that at that point now, when you run your process, the two things run at the same time.
Yet, but I don't want to slow down the class. Maybe later I'll meet it personally. It hasn't resolved yet. It's not.
Okay. Now, with the activities, I think we all grasp how the parallel activities work. how we can run two things at the same time. If they're in the background, or if one is in the foreground and one is in the background, and if you have two things at the same, if you have two things in your foreground, you cannot run them at the same time. You have to do one by one. Is that clear with everyone?
Mr. Spindler, can I say something? If you don't have parallel activity, can you use something else like a parallel for each or parallel process?
Don't use parallel for each. You
So
said they have parallel process.
Yes, sir.
So use parallel process.
Okay.
So please, can we use an application instead of typing issue?
Can you what?
So it's not working.
Who's that? You said you want to use application for
this parallel activity. The type into I've used there is not working. Indicate targets on screen. It's not coming up. It's saying that I should use okay, the same message one of us received earlier. The current activity must be added inside as use application browser activity.
Yes, so you do that. You can get that activity in the activities panel. I think we solved that same issue in the last exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, so you do that again.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on. As I said, the next activity is an assignment. So slide 42, an assignment. That's you would look at, or that will be due tomorrow, I guess. We'll look at it tomorrow. Now, continuing our talk on control flow. So we talked about a sequence, or how a sequence is a set of activities that are linear, or that follow them, that are executed one after the other in a linear fashion. Now, another method of organizing our processes is into flowcharts. Now, flowcharts allows us to branch our processes, or branch out our sequences, or branch out our automation based on decisions that we'll make. So if at some point we want to make a decision, then perform some actions based on that decision. Think of like how we have the if else now in a sequence, where if you want this to happen, it should go this way. So if this happens, it should go this way. And if that happens, it should go another way. Now the flowchart allows us to make those same decisions, but this time it's more diagrammatically represented, that it's more visual, easier to visualize. It's easier to visualize with flowcharts. Now, flowcharts consist of various activities that are connected to one another in multiple ways, and diagrammatically represent various steps involved in completing activities and tasks. A flowchart, I think, is a project that consists of various activities which can be connected to one another in multiple ways. It is a diagrammatical approach that represents various steps involved in completing activities, tasks, and process, and it helps users to easily view and follow the process. So flowcharts can either be used as standalone automation projects, that is as maybe a singular thing you are doing, or it can be included in procedures of larger projects. The most important part of flowcharts is that, unlike sequences, they present multiple branching logical operators. that help to create complex business processes and connect activities in multiple ways. Okay, so what that means is that it allows us to branch out, as I said, branch out our sequence or our process in various ways, in a multiple of ways. Now, it allows us to make decisions that helps us to create more complex things. Now we might want to automate some actions for a certain outcome while not automating for another outcome. Now, this flowchart allows us to put that into our development or into our project, and we use our logical operators. That is, we use our what's it called? Our greater than equals to in flowcharts to make those decisions. Now, an example of a flowchart process is what we can see on screen. We have a flowchart that allows us to tell a user whether he has passed an exam or not. And it works by asking the user for his name and the marks obtained, and then displays the exam outcome in the message box. Now, if we were to build that, in our activities, we also have the same way we have sequence. Oh, actually, instead of creating a new sequence here now, we will create a new flowchart because that would give us a more robust basis for the flowchart, the activities that are needed in the flowchart. So under new, you click on new flowchart and then name it flowchart process. In this case, okay, there's one like that already. Flowchart P process, and create that now. So we can see the first thing we get there is our start. So this is where the automation starts from. And if we can see on my screen, we can look very well. You see that there are some little boxes beside the start box. These little boxes are what allows us to create the branching or the logical branches that a flowchart uses. Okay, now according to the PDF, after creating that, you're meant to insert an input dialog. So let's do that. Input dialog. And now we can connect the two to themselves. Okay, connect to this. And now that is one branch of our process. So from the start, you can see that we are flowing to the input dialog box. Therefore, the input dialog says we should put the name, enter student name and names. So now we have here name, here enter student name, and for this we have names. Now the next part is another input dialog box below the first one that has marks, enter marks in numeric and int marks. Okay, so likewise put another one that connects to this, and then it's marked. Enter marks in numeric, and then here we want int mark. Now we want that to be of type int 32. Next step is insert a flow decision. Now the flow decision it works in the same way as if else, in the sense that we then make one decision or the other. We either should do two things. If it's true or false. Okay. Now we'd want to oh no, that was a mistake here. I meant to drag this to this, and then from here you go into this. Now this is our flow decision. Like I said, it's like the if else. It allows us to make two decisions based on true or false. So if a condition is true, we go one way. If a condition is false, we go the other way. And the way we enter our decision or our condition is in the properties panel. So if you can look at the right of my screen, you can see a condition here where we can enter, since we want the pass mark to be 60, we enter the int marks. So enter a variable int marks should be greater than or equal to 60. Now, if that is true, what should happen? If that is true, we want to put a message box on the left that says, congratulations, names, you have passed the exam. So message box goes here, and another one goes here. So if true, say then if it's false, go here and say hello names, you have failed the exam. The exam. Okay, so this is, a basic flow chart process. As we can see, starts from the inputs or starts from the beginning, the start button or start node in this case, and then flows to our first activity, which then flows to the second one, and then flows to our flow decision, which, as I said, is similar to an if else statement in a normal sequence or in a sequence. So at this point, you make a decision based on a certain condition, which in this case is if the marks are equal or greater than 60. So if it's true, perform this activity. If it's false, perform second activity. So let's run it and see. I compile. Okay, now it says enter student name. So if I enter a name, Next thing is enter the mark. So enter 60. Says this. And if I run it again, and I enter another name, and we enter something less than 60, like 59. So you can see how at some point, or at this point rather, this decision of whether we execute something based, execute most branch of activities happens. And you can see the effect in each case. In the case of when it was less than 60, and in the case of when it was greater than 60. Oh, okay. Continuing. If looked at, if you remember in sequences, one of the types of control flow, we said there were decision-based control and iteration-based control. Now in flowcharts, we have something similar. We have similar control flow activities in flowcharts. What I mean similar, so we have things for the control flow now. For sequences, we had the if else and the switch. While for the flowchart now, we have decision, which we used earlier, that resolves to true or false. And then we have the flow switch. So the same way our switch activity allows us to have multiple predefined outcomes that we want to compare our expression to. Likewise, the flow switch allows us to define some outcomes we want, and then create outcomes based on whatever expression, whatever value the expression has at that point in time. So we can see under, let's just take a quick example. If I try to move this from here to here, let's go here. I want to bring this one here so I can set a condition. Okay. Now here we can change. So it's saying us that this is our default case. So if you don't want it to be our default case now, you have to uncheck this. And then in the properties panel, remember how we said the cases in the switch activity for the sequence. We can then put our case here. So if you want the case to be case 5, as we did before, put that here. If you want to put other cases again. And then for our default case, we will leave this ticked. So that one will execute whenever our expression does not evaluate to any of the cases we have set aside. So continuing, flow switch and flow are the two types for the control-based decision-based control flow. While for the iteration-based or loops, as we call it, there are also loops in flowcharts that helps us to perform tasks repetitively. Now for loops in flowchart now, we create loops by basically creating a branch that goes from one activity to that goes basically in a cycle. If you want, for example, you want this whole thing to loop around again now, you see that it goes to the input dialog, first one, second one, to the decision, to true. Now we can create another branch that goes back from here. Goes from here. Goes from here back into the first one. So as you can see now, from this point, it goes down straight, then goes again. Okay, then it goes down, then goes again. Now this is the basic implementation of a loop in a flowchart process. Okay, and remember how for sequences we had a condition we had to check. Now for a loop, this flow decision is very important because that is how we will be able to break out of the loop. So the basic, I call it the syntax or the format for a loop in a flowchart is to connect the activities with a flow decision so that you can exit the loop. Okay, now we also have some activities here that I would like you to work on your own after the class or in your free time, easy to practice. And then there is nesting flowcharts. So when we say something is being nested now, nesting means we are creating something within another thing. So when we say we are nesting a flowchart, it means we are creating a flowchart inside another flowchart. Okay, so as you can see on my screen, flowcharts and sequences can be nested within each other to create more complex workflows. And that allows for logical division of programs, and it allows for the code to be reusable. It promotes reusability. And even though it's possible to nest flowcharts and sequences, it is not really advisable because it can make, or it's not advisable to do that in a very large amount because it would make code more complex to read, complex to look at. So imagine having multiple little things inside. The user, let's say a programmer will not have enough high level, let's say high level knowledge, but high level, will not be able to look at the code and decipher what is happening at the high level. It will require the programmer to actually start diving deeper into each individual level or each individual nesting of the flowcharts or sequences. So as a rule of thumb, you should not nest more than 2 or 3 levels of a flowchart or sequence into each other when creating your process. Now, there are some differences between sequences and flowcharts. So as you can see on my screen, sequences are suitable to linear processes, while flowcharts are suitable for complex processes. Sequences allow for seamless movements between one activity to another, while flowcharts allow for complex movements between 2 activities. But then because you are expressing them diagrammatically, it is easier to understand and easier to not visualize, but easier to grasp. Now, sequences act as a single block of activity, while flowcharts can connect multiple blocks of activities through branching. So for error handling, we will look at error handling in our class tomorrow. We will begin on that. And so if you who has any questions on whatever we've done so far? If you have questions, you can raise your hand up and then I would answer them. Or who has any problem now with creating flowcharts, creating sequences, the difference between the two and how they are applied as the need arises in your automations or in your project. If you do have such questions, or if you think there's some things you don't understand, I think now is the time to raise your hand. Okay, honesty. Chibuzo. Be honesty. So when I call you, try
Hello.
to answer as quick as you can.
Hello.
Yes,
My
Chibuzo.
question is this way. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. My question goes this way. Can you use both flow chart and sequence together in a particular workflow?
So yes, it's possible to put a sequence, or not, or the term sequence now is just a block of activities that are executed one after the other. So it's possible that in your flowchart you might have a sequence of activities that you want to group together as one. So yes, it's possible to have a sequence inside a flowchart. I don't know if you're getting me, Chibuzo.
Yes.
And then yes, for a flowchart inside a sequence now, is, as I said, and vice versa also. Now you can put a flowchart or all these flow decisions now into your block of code. If you look at this now, if you look at this whole process, it's one block of code. One, like this, what I'm clicking on now is one block of code. So that in a way is a sequence. Remember, a sequence is a block of activities. If you remember what they said, what was it in the slide? Block of activity. Now this whole thing that I clicked on is a sequence, but then it's a flowchart that is performing the activities inside. So you can, I mean, I guess you can do one, you can mix them together, but then they are also separately defined, I mean, types of project flows. Yeah, project flows.
Okay, so I can just put it this way. You can use sequences in flowchart, but you can't. But when you want to, that you cannot use flowchart inside a sequence. Flowchart is more used in a kind of more elaborated or more larger task.
It's a lot. Yes, it's allowed us to build more complex things. So
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Look.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Hello, Luke.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So concerning the error I encountered when I was trying to create that research, you remove the quotation from the file list. Like I removed the quotation, but it's telling me that another variable already exists as file list.
So did you create two variables that are file lists? That's the question now.
Yes, actually I created one. Yes, I created two because from the beginning they said we should create set a variable file list.
Yeah, so don't create two, just insert that same variable there. Don't create again. Just insert it there. So you can start typing file list, and you should see like a drop down. So then select file list from the list, from the drop down menu. So once you once you created a variable before, don't create it again, because that would cause conflict. Remember, I said variables must be unique. I must have unique names. So trying to make something with the same name twice would cause errors.
Oh, okay. Okay. So okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hey, you're welcome. Kieran.
Sorry, sir. My Okay, let me just go straight to the question. Okay, it was the initial problem I had that I didn't want to disturb the class.
Okay,
I
then.
can't
So
still
let's
find the search windows because I just checked the assignment you say we should do, and then I will need to use that tab
you
in
can't
the course
find
of the
you
assignment.
can't find if you can't find
The
window message.
Yes.
So you said you saw input method.
Let me try to get back my UI. So on they say we should click the type into activity and then look at its properties, right?
Yes.
So once I click the type into activity and on the properties tab, the only option I see, like your own interface has some tabs under the options, but my own, the only thing I see there is input mode, and then it's on hardware. So when I click it, there is a drop down and there is an option to select Windows message. But if I select the Windows message, I get some error saying, let me just read out the error. It says the click before typing property is relevant only for the hardware event. That's stating that I can't use it for the Windows message. And apart
Okay,
from that, your
so
own has another section that says true or false. My own doesn't have something like that.
So Kian, can you share your screen with us and you look at that? And then
All right.
Yes.
I'll need a minute to get it.
Yes, no problem. Allow me to judge. Allow me to judge. Are you here with us?
Okay, Mr. Zmila, it's okay, sir. You can ask someone else. Thanks. Hello? Mr. Timileyin?
Hello? Honesty Alabi. Honesty Alabi. Chizu.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, your hand is up.
Okay, it's the flow chart I was having issues with. I didn't really follow through with it.
So what's happening in the flowchart?
after inputting the dialogue, then the message bus, then the flow decision on the message bus.
So, yep.
I'm getting an error message.
What's the error? And what does the error message say?
Value for a required activity. Text was not
Value.
supplied.
Text was not supplied for a flow decision. Okay, what's that? Did you put
Value
condition?
Condition.
Yes, for the flow decision.
No, how am I supposed to do that?
Yes, so you put your condition in the properties panel of the flow decision. So click on it, then check properties. You should see a field
Condition. Okay.
For condition, yes. So do that. Have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen that.
So the condition is in the the PDF.
Let me check.
So that should solve your problem.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome. Then, okay, the next person on the list is Chizu, which is Chizu.
Okay, sir.
Yep.
Okay, sir. Sorry, let me just take you back a little. I did the process for the parallel activity, and again, I used use application instead of type into. Now, this time, the process was successful, but the application argument, that is, for example, the write-up that you have that comes up on the notepad. For example, automation is the future or something like that, did not display on the notepad after the process was run. I don't know why it happened that way.
So
I used application.
Can whoever that is mute themselves. Okay, so you said your notepad, type into the notes, add anything to your notepad. The notepad was still empty, right? After everything.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so yes, you can share your screen also, and let's see that. So Kieran, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes, sir. I am.
Okay, Chizu, you can share. Oh,
okay.
Kieran, I don't think Kieran is not ready yet, so he can share. So while we wait, wait with me. Good evening. Your hand is up. So. Wait with me, Thomas.
Hello, sir.
Good evening. So.
Thank you for the class today. But mine is not a question, but a suggestion. Because like I said earlier, for me, this class is very strange. Everything about it, very strange. And it happens at a fast pace that I may not see where you click to get this one or to get that one, and can't take you back. And I get on the LMS to check if the video has been uploaded to go through it so I can understand before coming for the next class. But sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, it comes late in the afternoon or towards evening that I barely have the time to sit down, go through exhaustive before coming for the next class. And some of these things that are in the previous classes get to be used again in future classes. So it's really a lot. I don't know how that can come from that angle. Like couple us had the video of the class early, so we can go through it and understand.
Okay, okay.
I really don't know asking
Okay,
questions.
so okay, about that. So I think okay for the video then the link would be on the LMS tonight on Fairly, I guess for future classes too. It seems like most why not they do one with that same only I like not the only one with that problem. So try to get our tech guy, put it online, latest very early in the morning, very early in the morning. So and I guess for future classes,
Thank you, sir.
I know we all have network issues, so I will try as much as I can to go back once in a while, but then the class also has to move forward. So try to find a balance between everything.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so have you used your typing tool?
I've used my typing tool, but it's advised I use application.
And I mean in the do part now under the application, you put type into activity there.
If I did what?
There's a do there's a do section, a do block under
Yes.
the
Yes.
I will try putting type into like type into activity there.
No, I didn't.
Like that. Let's see what happens.
Should I add like a message box?
Yeah. No, it doesn't type into, so just put type. Okay, just type into activity in your studio.
I didn't get that, sorry.
So click on you can see the do box there. Add the typing.
Okay, typing activity.
Sorry, can I click the additional button and then search for type into?
So once you do that, it should type. You should type all your activity there. Sorry, you put your what's it called, your message there, and you should type into your code. I think that should solve your problem, Daniel. That should solve anything.
Yes, sir.
Yep. So and
All
Kieran,
right.
we are still waiting for you.
I'm ready, sir.
Yeah, so you can share your screen now, Kieran.
Okay, sir.
Chibuzo, your hand is still up. So, do you still have any question that we haven't answered? Chibuzo and Honesty. Oh. All right. Honesty.
Sure. I'm here,
I
sir.
can see. Okay, so
I'm
for the
still working on it.
For the typing, so click on. You said you only saw, not see other things there.
Yes, sir.
But I'm seeing other things there.
I mean, on your own interface, under the options tab, you could see the send Windows message. That's basically what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so I said input mode. So under input mode, put
Here.
it on, yes. Put it on window messages. And then what is the error now? Saying click before typing. So you can see in the options, scroll down the property panel.
Around here.
Yes, click before typing.
Okay.
So click none, wait on none. Yep.
Then how do I set to true then? Because on your okay, just this.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. And Daniel has your own works too.
Yes, sir, it's working fine now. Thank you.
And so
Both the former about it.
For future reference or future classes, so we'll not be having the same difference in interface. Can you see my screen? So I mean, you and Daniel and Kieran, or anyone else who is having, who are those same issues are not being able to use typing to. So go to the home page, click on settings, then design. Okay, then turn off this option. Kieran and Daniel, are you listening?
Yes, I can see.
So turn off that option. So that would allow you to use the same interface as most of us, yeah.
All right, thank you, sir.
That's modern for new parents. Mine is already turned on.
Oh, yeah, turn it off.
So you mean modern for new project?
Yeah, turn it off.
Okay, off. All right.
That was
off,
on. That's why you were.
Sorry.
Oh, that's why you were seeing all those other errors when you could not use typing to like that.
Okay.
So, sir, to be clear, we should turn it off.
Yes, off. Turn off your
modern
activity.
All right, sir, done. Thank you.
Welcome. So, good night. The rest of us that are still here.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Good evening.
Even who's talking? Sorry, I can't see your name.
Sorry, it's Robert.
Oh, Robert. Yes,
Hello,
good
sir.
Robert.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Good night. Tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.